So we're back with another little video here. So this one is called "You Don't Have to High Pass." Okay, so that's something I hear very often. I have heard that many times in my life. That you have to high pass every channel. Actually, you have to high pass every channel, and that if you don't, you won't get good bass. So I will say right now, this is like a complete myth. Okay, this is completely in every way a myth, and I really don't understand really kind of where this came from. There are lots of reasons you can high pass. Sometimes there is muddy stuff that you want to clean up. Okay, there are good examples of when you would want to high pass. I would recommend using like a more precise EQ rather than a high pass. Now, there's a few things that I want to talk about. Like one of the things that people say is that you don't need the low end in hi-hats. You can just high pass all your hi-hats, and that you don't need any of the and that'll clean up room for the for the bass, right, or whatever. And that's kind of something that people say is clean up your hi-hats, high pass your hi-hats. Now, I want to tell you that's a really bad idea, actually. And the thing is that, it kind of depends on your outlook. It's maybe not a bad idea. Like, if you want a really synthetic kind of angular, sort of like really kind of metallic sort of sound on your hi-hats, then you can high pass them or whatever. I'd actually recommend band passing your hi-hats. That sounds way better than high passing them. That's my choice. But, like, if you want a really synthetic sound, it does make sense to surgically EQ everything. I mean, that's a certain style, and that's what, certain producers do that, right? And that's a style. I'm going to come out and say I'm in the camp of wanting a little bit more organic sound, which is what is a real thing. We can actually say that word organic and mean something too, because there are mathematical ways that organic sounds differ from synthetic sounds. There are mathematical ways. And so we can say that this is like aesthetically preferred. And part of that is because of, some pretty valid mathematical and scientific conceptions of aesthetics. When you get kind of into the study of aesthetics, it's you can validly say, for most people, synthetic sounds, and now we use abrasion, we use ugliness in our music, like that's a modern style, but we have to understand that this is kind of ugliness, right? It kind of is, right? And we don't have to shy away from things being ugly because that's very real. Like synthesis is real. That's a very real thing, but it's very different than an organic structure. It is. Like a square wave is not something you would hear just walking around in nature, right? It isn't. And the sounds we hear in nature have a certain kind of formation. Now, a good thing to understand is that, when any two frequencies are present, another frequency is produced, okay? And this frequency is called a differential. And this is a mathematical concept which is all that it is that it's the two frequencies, they have a value. Each frequency has a value, and then the difference in between those values, when you subtract the smaller value from the higher value, it creates the differential below them. So basically how this works is that, the differentials aren't that loud usually. They can get loud. There are ways to make them really loud if you want. But on a hi-hat, the differentials are basically what kind of makes the hi-hat sound like a real sound, actually, because a hi-hat really isn't just high frequencies. It's quite a broad spectrum thing. The high frequencies are dominant. And you, like, in a mix, you could think, you're never going to hear these high frequencies. But really, listen to it. Listen to your hi-hat. Like, it sounds different when you high-pass it at 500 hertz. It really does. Listen to it. And same thing with, like, male vocals. You see the male vocal deepest fundamental at 110 hertz or whatever, and you think you can high-pass it at 50 hertz because you're so far below the fundamental. But listen to it. Listen to it. You're doing a deep male vocal, and you high pass it at 50 hertz. It loses the weight, okay? And there's mathematical reasons for this, and so you wanna avoid high passing stuff. Like, really, you want to avoid any processing. You don't want to process your sounds. Like, that's kind of a secret. You have to process your sounds, okay? But you only want to process them either in creative sound design ways, which means that you can hear the difference, okay? When you're doing sound design, it means you can hear the difference. It means It sounded one way, now it sounds different. It really sounds different. The other kind of processing we do is transparent kind of mixing processing, and that's to make things kind of stand out more. It doesn't really change the quality of the sound, but it makes it mix better, and that's kind of how we process a particular sound in a different way, right? But we don't want to do processing for no reason. Like, you don't just high pass all your channels at, some arbitrary frequency. Like, that makes no sense. Like, there's no reason to do that. And that's a bigger rule, actually, is that you should never do anything unless you know why. Don't do things unless you don't know why. And that's a life lesson, honestly, as well as a music lesson, seriously. Like, understand why you're doing something. Like, think about it. Why are you doing it? Do you actually know, or did someone just tell you? And if you don't understand, you should try to understand. And if you can't understand, and someone tells you this is necessary to understand, and it just makes no sense to you, well, you have a bad teacher, talk to me instead, haha. Or, like, maybe this isn't the right area for you, because a lot of people are attracted to the music industry, and I encourage everyone to try it, but, like, being a professional, you should make music. Just sing and record, it's fine. Like, I've made so much shitty music, you have no idea. Like, a lot of my music is... Don't be hard on yourself like this. This is really unnecessary, to be honest. Cripes. Is genuinely bad, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, it feels really good to make stuff. It felt good at the time. Sometimes I look back on it and cringe. But, like, understand why you're doing stuff. Like, realize that you're not going to be perfect, and there's probably lots of stuff that you don't know about. There's lots of stuff that I don't know about. I know a guy who is me in fucking 40 years. He did the same experiments with differential tones in the 1960s that I did in the 2010s. Okay, and like, I thought that I was onto some stuff, producing like a 5 or 0.5 hertz tone and shifting concrete and stuff. He did that in the 60s. Okay, this guy says, I'm still learning new stuff about audio every day. Like, you will never stop learning about it. It's crazy. Audio is a very deep subject. It is very deep, and it applies to more things than you realize. Once you start to get into it, but getting the basics down is important. I'm trying to help with that. So basically, don't do things you don't understand, and really, like, listen to the sounds. Like, if you're Okay, I kind of had a little outburst here. I'm just, like, I could explain why I'm doing it this way instead of editing it like a normal person, but I guess this is, just ignore this kind of part, I guess, Like, you should really understand the things you're doing, and if you're high-passing every channel because someone told you, and you can't hear that, maybe your monitoring isn't good enough. Like, you could be high-passing every sound at 50 hertz, right, like that, and actually you don't hear below 50 hertz on your monitors. Like, you probably actually don't, right? Now, I listen to your music on my system, and of course you're kick and bass, or they're going to have tons of 50 hertz. I'm telling you, the amount of 50 hertz you're going to have in your kick, if you can't hear 50 hertz on your monitors, is obscene. Like, I'm often attenuating 10 decibels off 50 hertz on people's mixes, because people can't really hear 50 hertz. They hear 55, 60. 50 is like a very powerful fundamental. It's like it's our brain frequency. Well, I'll talk about that in more of my spiritual move videos. 50 hertz is serious shit, though. And people have a lot of it going on too much a little bit in a lot of their tracks, because they can't hear it, right? Your monitoring really matters. So if you're high-passing everything at 50 hertz or whatever, you're not hearing the weight that's being lost, because these differential tones really add to the music in a huge way. So that's why, like, low end is really what music is all about. When you get down to it, there's more weight in the low end. There's more nostalgia in the low end, is what I'm going to call it, okay? There's the low end is the warmth and so on. So this is about don't high pass everything because you want that low end. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, okay? I was kind of looking away there, looking distantly into the... Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that you actually watched the end. It really makes a big difference. I don't care if only 5 people watch this. If anyone benefits, that's awesome. I'm really new to this video thing, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.